Right, I'm going to do a very, very similar video to one about case 13 about juror irregularities, because I'm enjoying looking at these cases that there was no verdict on, because they're not getting any attention at the moment. It's all about, well, because she's effectively not being found guilty, but I just think they're really important to look at in context of the mudslinging that was going on. But again, I just want to raise again about this issue with the jury tampering. So, irregularities. Sorry. It says here, right. An email was received from a member of the public to the effect that she has a cafe and a customer who came in a few times, who she identified by their first name and description, and who was a juror in this case, had been talking about the case on a few occasions, describing some of the evidence and events that had occurred during the trial, and that the jury have already, quote, have already made up their minds about her case from the start. Now, okay, so it emerged, yeah, he had been to the cafe, but he stopped going there after a dispute about a mobile phone not being paid for, and this was dealt with by community something or other, but I've just got more questions. If you had a bit of a beef with someone, and you wanted to get them into trouble somehow, how is emailing the judge to tell them this going to get that person into trouble? Because it's not. Because what they're not saying that the juror himself had already made up his mind. It says here that the jury, plural, have already made up their minds about her case from the start. Not he's already made up his mind. So, also, if she's getting him kicked off the jury, isn't that doing him a favour? I mean, no one wants to do jury duty, do they? I don't know. Still, to me. So, what we're going to look at now is case 18, count 18, which is attempted murder of baby N. So, again, this must have been another miracle baby that survived 3 attacks. 1, 2, 3. Triple miracle. Again, no case. There's never been a baby or that's survived an attempted murder before, but this one, it's survived 3. Now, because there's been, it doesn't actually tell you what the allegation was. I was trying to find out exactly what the prosecution was saying. It's a bit mixed. So there was 3 attempts on its life. One of them was guilty of attempted murder. But what we're looking at is the this one on June the 15th at between 7:15 and 7:30 a.m. So let's take a look. Now this is the this is the judge's summing up. Child N. Letby said she would arrive prior to 7:30 a.m. for her day shift. She went to talk to Jennifer Jones Key, her colleague, on this day. She referred to her colleague's note on Child N being pale and veiny overnight. His condition deteriorated. In cross-examination, it was put to Letby that observation charts showed nothing deteriorating for Child N. Okay. Well, I'm just going to contradict that in a minute. Letby said she was stood at the doorway, and Child N's deterioration happened within minutes. Was bluish and not breathing. For the intubation, Letby recalled blood being seen in her interpretation of the note was blood was seen once intubation had been attempted. I should say it's not Letby doing the intubation here. In the family communication note, Letby wrote parents were contacted, phones were switched off, and a message was left. In cross-examination, Letby agreed she had written out the 7:15 a.m. incident as she had taken care of Child N from 7:30 a.m. Okay, now the rest is about incidents after that. So we're just concentrating here on this 7:30 a.m. incident. Now, so Letby said she was at the doorway. Now here is, so basically Letby came in in the morning, and basically the baby had collapsed as soon as she arrived. Technically before she'd even started her shift, while she was in the doorway talking to her colleague. So this is a thorough statement from Jennifer Jones Key herself. Okay. I was working the night shift on Tuesday the 14th to Wednesday the 15th. I commenced my shift at 7:30 p.m. So it would have been 7:30 p.m. to a full 12 hours shift until 7:30 a.m. and was in nursery 3. Lucy Letby handed over to me and reported no concerns about Child N. Okay, so what we're going to read now is what was happening to the baby in the middle of the night when Lucy's not there. So Child N was nursed in an incubator and taking bottle feeds of their mother's express breast milk in the early hours of the morning. Child N looked pale and mottled in colour. I noted that their abdomen was bloated and veiny. I notified the shift leader, Belinda Simcock, about Child N's deterioration. Incidentally, I looked up Belinda Simcock's thorough statement. She basically couldn't remember anything. I connected Child N to the full saturation monitoring. Child N was having desaturations, but no interventions were required. I asked Dr. Yu to review Child N. Dr. Yu then did a septic screen and bloods were taken. IV antibiotics were commenced and given by the nursing staff. At 5:30 a.m, again before Lucy's arrived, Child N started to have more desaturations. IV fluids were commenced. The feeds were stopped and ambient oxygen was commenced in the incubator. And here we go. At 7:15 a.m, Lucy was in nursery 3 as she had come to have a chat with me before comment. So they are currently in nursery 3. At 7:15 in, Lucy was in nursery 3 as she had come to have a chat with me before commencing her shift. I can't recall the details of the conversation. Child N started to desaturate and was mottled all over their body and was blue in colour. Lucy responded and commenced resuscitation using Neopuff. The doctors were on the unit. Okay. I asked them to review Child N. Child N had a second desat. I think this is a bit later. So we're talking about the 7. We're just looking at the 7:15 to 7:30 a.m. incident. So here is what the prosecution have said happened. Right. So the prosecution have said overnight he was in nursery 3. At the beginning of the night shift, Child N was very unsettled. Letby was to be the designated nurse. The use of her phone appeared to show she was awake by 5:10 a.m. and in her shift at 7:12. She had texted a colleague that she had escaped room 1 and was back in room 3. A colleague said Lucy Letby came into the room to say hello, but when the nurse's back was turned, Letby told her Child N had desaturated before assisting with breathing. There was no evidence of an alarm sounding or if Letby waited to see if he self-corrected. Doctors were called and an attempt was made to intubate the child. There's some confusion about throat swelling and bleeding, but that turned out to be after a second attempt of aspirating. So what the prosecution was saying is that medical expert Dr. Dewey Evans said he believed the deterioration of Child N was consistent with some kind of inflicted injury which caused severe pain. Now, and Dr. Sandy Bowen said such a profound desaturation followed by a rapid recovery in the absence of any painful or uncomfortable procedure suggested an inflicted painful stimulus. So as we heard, I mean the baby had started having desats before Letby came on shift, then had another desat just as Letby was coming on shift, whilst Jennifer Jones Key was there. But apparently this desaturation when Lucy Letby came on shift was due to some sort of inflicted painful harm. And like I say, count 18, no verdict. So not guilty, but in other words, I think someone told me at least 2 jurors had to have said guilty beyond reasonable doubt for that. I've got no words. I mean, what we're looking at in these cases is just an example of the mudslinging. This case that got to trial, this count that got to trial, count 18, and the other one with child, count 13 with child J, they are no more credible than counts 1 to 22. And it just goes to show you, some of the jury, even for these cases, have said guilty.